Good morning. Hello. Hello, everyone. Or good morning, afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the fourth episode of Discover Hospitality, a series where we discover hidden jobs and careers in the hospitality industry and share career advice for students, graduates, and those of us with a few years of experience and anyone else in the hospitality industry. I am your host, Maria Malaniia, a hospitality graduate, a guest experience and hospitality brand specialist, and the founder of Savvy Hotelier, a place for hospitality students to ask questions and find resources for their studies and beyond. I want to show what is really possible for each and every one of us in this wonderful industry. So that's why Discover Hospitality series dives into those areas like events, travel, wine, entrepreneurship, hotels, restaurants, and much more. So make sure to follow WHTT and Savvy Hotelier. Do not miss the upcoming events every Thursday. We go live on WHTT's LinkedIn channel at noon GMT. So today's event is all about travel. And with me today, I have four amazing panelists to help us discover what is possible in the travel sector, how to approach a career in the field that you love, and how to make it your own. Because your career is your responsibility. It is your life. Whether you're just starting out or have some experience already, you need to be happy with what you do most of the time. So pop your questions to the panelists about travel careers or their stories throughout the discussion, and we'll make sure to address them throughout the conversation, so it's not just at the end. And without further ado, I want to thank the panel for their participation before I even introduce them. So wonderful to have all of you here. It's amazing for your sacrifice in the time that it takes to be here. And obviously, there's a morning for most of you. So thank you so very much. And let me do a quick introduction of each and every one of you before we dive straight into the good stuff. So first up, we have Daniela Derin, holiday and rental manager and boutique travel agent in Marbella, Spain. Daniela has run her business for over 20 years, making people happy, finding them the perfect home, tailoring their special holiday, or even organizing their big day. She knows all about the industry, and it's fantastic to have you here, Daniela.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for the warm welcome, and pleased to be here.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So then we have Megan Chapa, a podcast network producer, creative director at Travmarket Media Podcast Network, previously a marketing, advertising professional, events professional, travel agent. She is now a host of the Travel Radio podcast dedicated to connecting travelers and travel professionals. I'm sure you have lots of stories to share, Megan.
I have a lot. Thank you for the welcome.
Amazing. Then we've got Will Slickers, the host of Slick Talk podcast, creator of the Destinationaire Award, Airbnb host, Revenue Management Education Committee member of the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners. That was a long one. And many, many more things. It's great to have such a polymath and entrepreneur with us today. Good morning, Will.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on the show and this episode. I'm excited.
Amazing. And then finally, we have Sahara Rose Vore, wellness, travel coach, consultant, and the CEO of the Travel Coach Network. Sahara studied hospitality and tourism management, but couldn't find the job that she could be excited about. So she just went about traveling the world for 10 years. And then she created her own job that suited her. So how many countries have you been to now, Sahara?
I think it's going on over 84.
Wow. Okay, a bit jealous. Amazing. Thank you all for being here again. So I want to start off our chat by asking the question, what is travel? Because if you look at the whole hospitality industry, it has so many different sectors and many of them are similar. And we oftentimes call it the hospitality travel, tourism and travel. There's lots of different descriptions for more or less the same thing. But how can we define the travel sector? What kind of jobs are there? Are we including hotels and restaurants and airlines? What does a travel job look like? You know, in order to pursue a career in a sector, you kind of have to understand what it is and what the parameters of it are. So let's have a look at that. Megan, what do you think? Your podcast is called Travel Radio Podcast, and your guests come from a whole range of jobs and niches in the sector. So how would you define travel?
I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And I think looking at the jobs that are available within the sector is probably the best way to do it. I mean, for me, so there's the business sector. Yeah, this is like a whole genus and species type thing, but I don't think we should narrow it down to one thing, because the people that I interview on my podcast, for example, I have historians that I interview, and they write books on, the real places that maybe Game of Thrones were based on, that real events in Scottish history. And so they're taking on, and then they provide a map of all the places so you can get to it. So it's not a traditional job within tourism, but it helps people get to the places from the films that they loved. And it encourages the movement of people to, maybe Scotland in a way that they wouldn't have before. And so, for me, it's, people in motion and getting them you get to participate in the best part of people's lives. These are the places they're developing their aha moments with their children. They're making business connections. And those are just finite pieces of time. I don't know. I'm defining this poorly, but I don't think that it should be labeled by business or hotels. I think it should be more inclusive than that. And rolling in hospitality and, restaurateurs. Like, I interview guys that do food tours, and none of them came from those backgrounds. None of them went to school for that. They, mechanical engineers, an accountant that became an archaeologist and built the UNESCO World Heritage Plan for the Valley of the Kings. There's a lot that can be done within tourism. And I think we need to be a little more creative in defining it than, it's simply hotels and airlines. So that's a bad answer to a broad question, and that's what I'm sticking with.
I think that's a brilliant answer, and it just explains that it's not that simple. It's not just about being a travel agent. It's not just about, doing tours or working in an attraction, or that can also be defined as a separate sector, doesn't it? So it certainly is very broad. And Sahara, you've been to many places, over 80 countries. So maybe more kind of the many different jobs that you've already done in your career, what kind of would you put in travel? Would you put all of them in travel, or would you kind of split them out a little bit more?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say, Megan, I think that was actually a right-on answer, because it is a really difficult question. There are so many layers and sectors to what we call the travel or tourism industry, and where's that divide between that industry and the hospitality industry, because it does involve people traveling, whether you as the worker are stationary in one place, whether that's a hotel or a resort, and providing other travelers with experiences. And I think that's what it boils down to. It's just about experiences. And I think that question was a really good one to start off with, Maria, for this conversation, because that kind of embodies what the point of all of this is, right? There's so much more that can be talked about, and to bring inspiration to those getting into the tourism industry, students, those who are looking to change positions in the industry, and to know that there's so many different things that you can do to involve your love of travel and your expertise in travel, like those two examples that you gave, Megan. That's amazing. Like, who would think that those are actual jobs that you can do? And if we bring awareness to those possibilities, I think that would give the tourism extended outside of the box that it has been in for so long, tourism and hospitality, which is exactly why I decided to travel the world versus climb the corporate ladder. And after graduating with my degree in hospitality and tourism. But as for jobs, when I was traveling, I struggled for a really long time trying to find where I could fit in the travel industry. Like I said, I had a degree in hospitality and tourism management, but I wanted more out of a travel career. I wanted to be able to really put my love and knowledge and everything I was experiencing while traveling to better use, to create more purpose, not only in the lives of others in the world, but also purpose to myself, help me feel more fulfilled in an industry that I loved so much. And I was hearing of all the different jobs out there in the travel and hospitality industry. such as working in a hotel or becoming a travel agent, which are great opportunities, but they didn't suit me. I was not interested in that. I didn't enjoy bookings. I didn't want to stay in one place. Hotel life just didn't suit me well. I wanted to be able to actually explore the world a bit more. And so for the majority of my decade of traveling around the world, about 3/4 of it, I struggled to figure out what could that be. And so that is what inspired me to dig a little bit deeper into the possibilities of what the travel industry can really consist of. So being able to, I think there's a lot of room for growth to allow people to think outside the box when it comes to careers. I think we really just talk about the obvious and the already done before. And those are limiting people's possibilities who are interested in going into the travel and hospitality industries or looking to make a shift in those industries. We have the rise in social media and the internet, which are bringing about more opportunities. Who knew such thing as a travel influencer? But still, that's not for everybody. And that might not be the path that resonates with someone, but it just shows that there's still more to come and you really can do and make anything out of a career, but it's really up to you to figure out where that passion lies and where that expertise can be implemented.
Yeah, and can I just say, like, let's not bag on traditional roles within the industry.
No, absolutely.
I don't think you were, but do it creatively. Like, if that's what you want to do, work in a hotel, great. I mean, how is it yours? That's just that's the trick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to stay put in one place, it's fantastic because you can be a hotelier, you can have a restaurant, you can have a cafe, you could be organizing experiences. Here, Marbella has built itself since the 60s about giving great guest experiences and organize all sorts of activities for the people that visit us. So really, you could have a bicycle rental business, or you could be a hotelier. So, or really you could be a travel influencer. I mean, my own job, we basically put it up over the last 4 or 5 years. Before, the holiday rentals were just a side of the real estate. Now we have a job title and we've built everything around it.
Yeah, it really is just up to what you have to figure out what interests you and what you enjoy doing. And then if that's working in hotels and you love giving guest experiences, that's amazing. If you love actually booking trips and experiences, that's fantastic too. It really is just up to people to know that they can do whatever interests them.
Exactly. I mean, what I personally really love is because I love to travel and discover new places and have great experiences. I want to give my guests those great experiences. And I really enjoy when they're happy and when they enjoy themselves.
Yeah, there's something to say. Yeah, exactly. And there's something to say about trying different things and trying to figure out what works for you. If you're lucky enough to know this is exactly what I want to do, stick to it, carry on, do it full on. But if you're not really sure, just don't stress too much about it. You don't have to spend,
not at all.
The first year or 5 to, build the perfect foundation for your career. Just try things out, right? You did that yourself, didn't you?
Well, I think the lady said it perfectly, is that don't limit yourself, is that, you don't have to put yourself in a box. And sometimes, especially as a hotelier myself, we do put ourselves in boxes because we're used to a building that is set at a certain way with certain room types. So getting creative with it is really the best part about it, getting creative and knowing there's no limits.
Amazing. Shall we get into talking a little bit about education in hospitality? I think it's an interesting topic we already touched upon, like whether you've studied it or whether you're, get into travel hospitality further on in your career because that's what you really kind of want to share your knowledge and such. But speaking of education, my own degree was hospitality and tourism. We could study hotels, restaurants, and tourism. We could specialize in different ones. And again, the recommendations of jobs were quite traditional. And we were forced to do practical experience, which was fantastic, which was one of the reasons I really chose that degree, because I really love, I learn by doing much better. And I think hospitality is just exactly all about that. You can't theoretically sit there and plan and experience without and learn how to do it without actually doing it. So I want to ask Daniela, in terms of you've been in the industry for a long time. You know, you've run your business for almost 20 years. One of some of the things you've noticed that, you know, throughout the years that's changed the most when it comes to running the business, but also learning about running the business and education within this sector?
Well, obviously, everything over the last 20 years has changed completely. When I first started doing holiday rentals, people would ring me up and would say, okay, I will come for the month of August. I would book an apartment, they would turn up here, and then they would see whatever apartment they had booked, and they were happy. They were happy with the basic. And then as the years carried on, we introduced email marketing. So they would ring up and I would send them the picture of the actual apartment, and then they choose, and they were very happy about that as well. Then in 2029, we put the website on where they could actually choose among 20 apartments, and that was delightful for them, because they could see where they were going to stay. So the digital transformation really helped us, and it helped giving them a best guest experience. Talking about education, I didn't study tourism, I studied languages because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So as the old people say, study languages and you'll be all right, which is what I did. And I fell into tourism. And what I think a good university or a good master should be is exactly what you said, Maria. It has to be theoretical and practical, and not even 50%. I would go for 70% practical to 30% theoretical. And as well as that, people have to realize that because the world moves so quickly and everything changes so quickly, it's not that you study a degree 2, 3, 4 years and that's the end of it. No, you have to keep learning day by day, year after year, and you have to implement all the changes, all the novelties, because you want to be the best at your job. You want to be able to provide the best guest experience. You want to be happy with what you're doing. You want to be satisfied with what you're doing. So yeah, whatever you study, think that you're going to study for all your life, basically.
Yeah, degree is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sahara, if I can ask you, as a hospitality graduate, should we adapt universities the way that Daniela suggests, or do you think there's still value in the traditional university style?
No, I wished when I was studying hospitality and tourism that there was more exposure outside of what the curriculum did consist of. I mean, I really enjoyed a lot of it, but like I said, I struggled after university to figure out, okay, now that I've learned all this and that I know that I'm passionate about this industry, where do I fit in? And granted, with over time, things change, the industries evolve tremendously, especially in the travel industry, technology industry, hotel industry. And then along came the social media and the internet, which opened up new doors in the travel and hospitality industries as well, which we couldn't have foreseen, years prior when I graduated or even while I was still studying. But if we can just start the narrative that there are to incorporate more creativity and innovation in the industry, allow students to, like we said, think outside of the box of the possibilities, is really exciting. I'm in a program right now where I'm working with a group of industry executives and across airlines and hotels, and led by two mentors, one who works for in the travel sector of Facebook. And we are doing just that. They were forced to think outside of the box. And even if it's something that we don't even see how it could be possible quite yet, at least they get us thinking of what could the future hold? Right now, during the travel industry and hospitality industry, despite the hard hit that it took during the pandemic, and still has the effect of that, it also opened a lot of doors and opportunities for creativity, innovation, fresh ideas, and thinking outside of the box for the industry. So I definitely wish that when I was a student in the tourism program, that we at least got to exercise the ideas of what else can be done, or how else can we as individuals make an impact in an industry that we were really interested and passionate about.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that would be a much needed improvement. I think to almost any degree, I would say, not even just to travel, but especially this is what we're here to talk about. I want to pose the next question to Megan. You speak to pretty much so many different people in your podcast. They do so many different niche things. I can't even describe what kind of people you speak to. They're, like you said, historians, travel agents, writers, and what draws people to this sector, and what skills make them successful? Because if it's whether you're starting out from education, or you're starting out later in life because it's a hobby of yours or just an interest, is there something that binds these people together, or is it pure interest for the industry?
I think that a lot of it is accidental happiness and realizing that they can get paid for a job that makes them happy. So, for example, I know a couple that runs couples golf tournaments all over the world, but they both came out of the defense industry. And a guy that I just interviewed, his name is Ashwani Body. If you Google the Horses King, that's actually what his name means, the Horses King. He was a mechanical engineer, but he was just giving his buddies food tours all over Delhi. And then people started to want to hire him. And he's like, my degree is in mechanical engineering. This isn't going to work. And then they're like, yeah, it will. But then he started to get people outside of his friend circle that wanted to hire him. And they said, but what's your background? Because they were local people, and I guess education is very, prioritized. And so he actually went back to school for tourism management, and so that he could be credible. So now he's got a PhD in mechanical engineering and a master's in hospitality. But a lot of the people, they all have one thing in common. They're passionate about, something singular to them. It's the thing that they do best. And it's the thing that takes this, all these peripheral skills and brings it in. So I think a lot of people that I talk to have later in life identifying that, they're really fanatical about whatever their, X thing is, but that they also want to connect with people and share that with people. Good communication skills. They are pretty organized. They're passionate about something. Maybe it's their story, or they want to help people. Maybe because I talk with a lot of travel professionals, so a lot of them do. They're experts in mobilizing huge groups of people, like destination weddings, or renting out an entire, a whole cruise ship, and booking every single cabin, and dealing with grandma and where her cats are going to board. All that sort of thing. So you have to have a love for people, because people have problems. And so a lot of people, you have to love people, you have to be organized, you have to be passionate about whatever the thing is you're doing. And I think that, a tertiary point on that is that, it didn't necessarily start because it was going to be a moneymaker. It started because that's the thing they were good at. And it was maybe a side thing that evolved into a full-time thing. Now, if you're clever enough, and I also know people that have MBAs that are starting travel businesses, that just I don't know if you know Project Expedition, those guys came out of Bloomberg, and they just launched with this backing. And I'll tell you, where the other tour providers are crumbling, these guys are rocketing for their Excel, because they've got the brain for business. And they started as business travelers thinking, why is it so hard to book tours? And they started their own tour company so that they can, solve that problem. So now their background is not in hospitality. Their background is in Wall Street, but they're crushing it. And their business was, they weren't using any of their profits to run the business. So they were able to survive this whole thing. And they were solving a problem. But you can hear them on my podcast, you can hear them on other podcasts, and they are able to communicate. And I think part of that is because they're passionate about what they do. So yeah, and I made notes just to make sure I got all of it. Yeah, I think that's all of it.
I think
can I just add something to that, Megan, that was perfectly explained. And what I would add is, according to your passions and your skills, you can build your job in travel. Because if you're organized, you can do the bookings. But if you're not organized and you're just more creative, well, you can do a lot of other things. You can organize day trips, tours,
Yeah.
and be and
Absolutely.
take the creative bit of the business. Or you can do photography, you can do travel photography. That's amazing.
Yeah, I
And
think that's a
Daniela,
good
to your
example.
point, languages are a door opener. You can
Oh,
work in
absolutely.
tourism if you and that's it's so true, because I have a girl that I interview a couple of times, and she does language retreats. She is a German speaker. She's actually from Canada, and she got all these language degrees, and now she leads language like retreats. So you go and work on your skill set for 2 weeks with her at this gorgeous chalet, and then you go into the market and practice your skills. I
Oh
mean,
my God. I
she
must sign up
never
for that.
yeah, she never planned on that, but she's kind of in the digital nomad sector where her husband is constantly moving for his job, but she can plan that from anywhere. So yeah, language
I
education
think
is a big deal.
that's a brilliant description of, I guess, the skills. I like how you put it together, Megan, and different skills and how you put it that bring all the different people together. And I wanted to bring it to Will, who's not really who's been listening a lot so far. I think it's similar to what you've been through. Like it's similar to your stories, for as far as I remember.
I was gonna say I'm not really in the education space. Like I never was educated. I kind of accidentally fell into hospitality, and I'll never forget when my first manager, when I applied to work at an autograph collection with Marriott, he says, "How are you with people?" And I said, "I love people. I come from a big family. I have siblings with special needs, and I've just been embodied in people my whole life." And so he's like, all right, good, because that's the one thing I can't teach you, and everything else I can teach you. So having a 700 and plus room luxury hotel and learning the back end of operations and what ADR was and RevPAR and like all these certain things that you don't really get taught right away. Those were all brought up into just kind of my training and through actually like doing everything. So I never was really educated on the side of hospitality and tourism, but that was the one question I was asked. And how are you with people? Because if you say I'm not good with people, that's the one thing I can't teach. And that's the one thing, if you're not really passionate about, it's not going to probably be the industry for you. Not saying that you can't do other back end stuff in the operations and the like tech space or other stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think we're all here to create experiences and, of course, take care of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally. It's a people's business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might, even if you're in the back office, you might be pulled or pushed into the front office to help out, and you kind of have to manage it, I suppose. And is that why you started your podcast? Well, you wanted to kind of connect with people on a different level than you did at work.
Yeah, I've never been good at school. So like going like all through middle school and high school, I was kind of the almost dropout kid. Like I just suck at school. Like I don't have the attention span to sit through class and do all the other stuff. So I'm a very hands-on person. And when I moved to the Oregon coast and was managing some boutique properties in a fine dining restaurant along with a brewery, I had no friends, I had no family, and like I love taking care of my guests. That was great. That was the human connection that I had throughout the day. But when I came home, it was just me. So the podcast was really my way of finding a way to educate myself. Actually, didn't think of anything would happen. Like I was excited when I got 2 listeners. I was like, oh my gosh, there's 2 people in the world that want to listen. And now the show is getting thousands. And it's like, okay, so it was more of a way to educate myself. But now it's grown into an audience that, like as we've all been discussing, that we're educating the world and the industry that there is more than just hotels. There's more than just restaurants. There's more than your average hospitality job. It's a huge and beautiful and creative industry that is global, and we're all connected in some weird way with how big the world is, but so small at the same time. So it's a beautiful platform. And that's kind of the reason why I did it, was more to educate myself, but it turned into a global, I guess, movement in a way.
And you're all entrepreneurs here, in some way, or pretty much, I would say, 100% entrepreneurs, or so at least 1 or 2 businesses you've got going on at the same time. And it's just interesting to me how sometimes what is perceived is like, go work for someone else in this industry, go get a job, work for a company. But you can do a lot with, just like you said, all of you said, with your own creativity, with coming up ways that you can mix your own skills and interests with a job. Or you can always have a job and do something else on the side. Like, you didn't start your podcast full time trying to monetize it, right? You have a hobby, you're interested in it, and I think Sahara did the same with your blog. You kind of just, you get along and you find a way forward later on. And I want to ask about entrepreneurship again, to all of you in a way. Is that something you always wanted to do, or did it just kind of, I guess, fell on you?
Well, in my case, it fell on me, but very early. I was 21 when I decided that I couldn't work for anybody else because I had my own views about absolutely everything. And now, of course, I have to report to my guests first and then to my owners. I have to give them results. But that is completely different, because if I want to stop working with somebody because we don't go along, I can do that right away. If you work for somebody, it's pretty different. You have to get on with the manager, the colleagues, and the other manager, and everybody has something to say. So I think being an entrepreneur, it's very good for me. It's very demanding, but if you love what you do, it's very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say that, Will, I love that you said that you started your podcast because it was to educate yourself. And I think platforms like yours and podcasts like yours, Megan, and all the other different resources out there in different types of media and opportunities are really important for just getting people's minds going of possibilities when they hear examples. I do that a lot in the Travel Coach Network. I just get my members to get to thinking of like, what are you good at? So your story, Daniela, was inspiring me to share that, because you were saying you started off in languages, and then when Megan, you talked about the woman who runs the language tours, like who would have thought that's a thing? But if that's what you're good at and you're interested in, you can really make anything of it. So I love when I am able to empower others to think outside the box, to dig within and figure out like, what am I really interested in doing? What would make me happy, right? But as for like entrepreneurship, it never crossed my mind. I had no one in my family who ever started their own business. I always thought I was going to work for somebody else. And I was more forced into it by myself, because like I said, I struggled for so long to figure out what I would be happy doing with my travel experiences and my knowledge. And I thought about different types of jobs or working for different companies, but it was just me listening to my gut and saying, well, would I really be happy doing that? And I really valued my time traveling. And if there was a job that would have taken away from that, I didn't want to do it. And I knew that traveling and working it's not easy. And especially if you have a lot of responsibilities with younger age, I wanted my time traveling was more valuable than whatever job I was doing or working for someone else. And so when I always gave myself this cushion for some reason. I said, when I'm 30, I'll figure out my life. And I mean, I had a pretty nice life hopping around the globe by myself for so many years, right? But at the same time, I was like, I need to figure out like, what is my career path? I didn't want to let my mom down. She put me in school, studied hospitality and tourism. I have a degree. What do I do with all this, right? And I said, because I couldn't find what I was looking for. I was searching and searching for years. I couldn't find it. I had to create it. So I was forced to create something for myself that would make me happy to do every single day. And that's how I kind of fell into entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. I was going to say, I was doing the podcast while managing a 70-unit all-suite condominium hotel. So That was my passion. It was like my team, my people. But then there was that part where I was like, damn, I am working for somebody else right now. Like I could not travel, which I wanted to travel, because when you're a manager at a hotel, it demands a lot of time. You're pretty much, even when you're not at work, you're at work. And so being able to outweigh that decision and be like, okay, what's pulling me in the right direction, and having it fall into you. And I never even knew what entrepreneurship was. Like my mom even started her own business, and I was like, oh, she's just like, I just thought of it as working. And I was a young kid when she saw that. But at the end of the day, then finally I had a mentor say, you're an entrepreneur. You created something. You created your own job. Like you created work. And I was like, oh, interesting. I did not know that was even a thing. So it's just kind of funny how it falls in together.
Yeah.
I think, it's interesting to kind of get into the question. I guess I posted it when we were promoting this episode. Can you get paid to travel as well? Brilliant question. The answer is probably yes and no. Depends on what that means to you. What does it mean to travel? How does it to get paid to travel? And what's the balance between the two? Speaking of digital nomads, who pretty much that's what they want. That's what they do. They work, but they travel at the same time. Megan, do you want to add on kind of on that? What is it the digital nomad? How do they do it? And how can we pursue that if we're interested?
Yeah, so, digital nomading, if you will, in my mind is someone who's not tied, like maybe they have a mortgage, but they're not living at that house right there. They're free to go where they want to go, unless you're living during coronavirus, and then you're locked wherever you're locked. But I think the purpose is that you can take your job with you. And so that may not mean that they're working in the tourism industry. Maybe they have an online business. That's something else. And they're working remotely from hotels, Airbnbs, hostels, something like that. I guess I kind of live that life a little bit, although we're plunked down in the States now, but for the foreseeable future. But I think you can get paid to travel, but it's more like, even travel writers, because I do have some pretty high profile travel writers on my podcast, even when they're going on their press trips, it's not typically they're getting paid for it. They're getting this trip comped, but then they need to go pitch that story pitch like 10 angles on that story in order to get paid. Like there's not actually a lot of money in travel writing. It's fun, but you're still working hard for it. So you might be going on a trip, but then you need to have a pretty quick turnaround on those articles because you're off on another trip. And so then it becomes, is it pleasurable if your turn is that quickly, and you need to be constantly pitching in order to get this thing. And then in the travel professional side, if you want to be a travel agent, and in the States, that's pretty much someone who plans the logistics of a trip. There are discounted travel opportunities available called familiarization trips. And they're wonderful, but you are working while you're there. You're going through the hotel rooms, you're taking notes, you are being catered to pretty well. You're staying in these gorgeous places, but it's a research trip in order to help your clients plan a better vacation. So, I think you can get, paid to travel. I think there's a couple of different ways to skin that cat, but none of it's, unless you're like some crazy Instagram, influencer. But I think the move is moving towards micro influencers that are more engaged with their community and actually have something besides just taking pretty photos to offer people. So yeah, you can get paid to travel, paid comped to travel, but it's not that's my experience. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'd love to jump in.
You're totally right.
Yeah,
Totally
I'd love
right.
to jump in here on that, because there's something about the phrase get paid to travel that kind of just irks me sometimes, because of the perception it has given a lot of people interested in working in the travel industry because they want to fulfill their desire to travel. And it sounds really attractive and fancy to get paid to travel, right? And I think a lot of that leads to a lot of people getting sucked in to things like MLMs, or it gets them sucked into a misconception of what that role really consists of. So like you were talking about, Megan, things like becoming an influencer, and you'll see ads on Facebook or someone else talking about it. A lot of influencers don't actually get paid. They get free travel. So like you were mentioning, the same with travel agents getting paid to travel. They'll get comped rooms or highly discounted things in order for them to come and check out a location. Same thing with influencers. They'll get maybe a free stay to come, or a comped stay, or whatever it might be. And even that is becoming more difficult for influencers. A lot of hospitality owners, hotels, whatever it might be, are getting rubbed the wrong way when it comes to influencing. So it kind of put a little bit of a smoke and mirrors over the industry when it comes to getting paid to travel. So if anyone is ever interested in getting paid to travel, I would really recommend you doing your research, talking and reaching out and finding out the facts of each of these positions. Same thing with travel blogging. It's very similar to, like you were talking about, Megan, about travel writing. It's not that easy to make that much money. You're working all the time to produce content, and going into blogging, you, in order to land contracts or deals or sell your work to someone else, you'll have to alter your voice, and that could start to take over and lose your passion, diminish your passion for why you started travel writing in the first place, in order to now chase that paycheck. So you have to really give it some thought, or go back to, like we were talking about, and really dig deep and figure out, what are you interested, what are your skills, and what would make you happy doing, and then start from there.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely. Totally right. I mean, if you want to travel like you did and be a digital nomad, it's very wise to have another job in travel or in totally another industry. I have a very dear friend who started off as a travel blogger 20 odd years ago, and she traveled the whole world, but she was getting paid very little, nothing for certain, pitching for different companies every other week. She saw the most beautiful places, but after she actually saw them, she had to write up her article, and sometimes up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because she had to hand it in the next day. So if any student is watching this, what you see on Instagram is not the reality. People do not get paid millions staying in fancy hotels. Maybe there is a very small bunch of them, but very, very few. The majority of them, they get the accommodation for free, but then they have to put the hard work in, as both Megan and Sahara very well said.
Yeah.
As the one time I was ever paid to travel, this is pre-COVID. The one time I honestly just jumped into the entrepreneur podcast and vacation rental space, and they paid for my flight and hotel, and then they also pay for sponsorship. So like, you can find ways to not only get free travel and get paid for your service, but I think it's a rare moment. Not that it's not possible, but at the end of the day, like all of you guys have been saying, is that it's a exhausting job. Like, you're working nonstop. So just be prepared for that mental capacity of always go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
but if you love what you do, it's not that difficult.
yeah, and I'm gonna bring that back to point of figure out what you love doing, and understand yourself, and kind of what the things you want to do. And you all mentioned that at some point already, but you also mentioned about mentoring, in terms of, you had someone that helped you understand, oh, this is what you've done, this is what it looks like. Can you talk a little bit about the value of mentoring has been to you, and how, and probably should everyone find themselves a mentor to kind of help them understand themselves?
Yeah, no, mentorship comes in so many different ways. And so I think that's one thing that, for me, I'm the traditional person that I like to have set times, whether it's weekly, monthly, whatever, where we talk about what's going on, how can I improve, what have I learned, what's another route I could go if I'm stuck, or just even a person to talk to, like, I'm frustrated with this, why am I not seeing this result, or just to celebrate with, because I think when we create our own jobs, not a lot of people see the hard work it gets to success. Like when you have a successful moment, you can't really go shouting from the rooftops, and a lot of people won't quite understand. So having a mentor is just really great to keep you in check with a lot of other things. And so my mentor really was just helping me because, I didn't go through school, so I wasn't very money savvy. I didn't know where to find like how to get a business license and all this other stuff. So just getting resources as well is pretty key for what a mentor does. But I recommend just anyone that has someone that they can trust. And there's a big trust factor with mentorship. You're really, as time goes on, at least in the beginning, it's very discovery. We're figuring each other out, what the goals are, whose intentions are what, and all this other stuff. But as that trust builds up, it becomes really deep, and you start to show emotions and feelings and ideas that you probably wouldn't share with most others. So it's just have that trust factor. And if it doesn't work out for you, with that person, don't get discouraged, because at the end of the day, not everything's going to be the way you expect it. So just having an open mind and continue to seek it out. It's a great tool, and it's a great benefit for any entrepreneurs or people that are just wanting to figure out what aligns with them. We all been discovering is do something that you love. So a mentor can really help you find out what you love, because you will expose you to them. Like you'll be talking about one thing and you don't think you love it, but they see the passion and the light up in you. And then they'll be like, hey, wake up, dummy. This is what you love, right? And then you'd be like, what? And then it discovers up a whole new thing. So it's a beautiful process, and I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I could not harp on how important it is to find a mentor or mentors. I knew nothing about business. I had no idea what kind of business I wanted to create. I knew I had this love and experience in travel. But I found a mentor from the very beginning. My very first mentor, even to this day, his name's David Meltzer. He's the CEO of Sports One Marketing, and he has the podcast, The Playbook. He's been one of my personal mentors, for almost over 2 years now. It's crazy. I started with him when I was just backpacking, trying to find Wi-Fi in South America. And he has nothing to do with the travel or hospitality space. I just really resonated with his values and his expertise. And I just kind of he inspired me to keep on asking for more help and so I exercise that skill to ask and seek more mentors. So when I started to get more realizations, I had a mentor in media and publicity. I have a mentor in finances, all these different areas that I needed to grow as an entrepreneur and learn new skills. I would seek a mentor to help in those areas. And then I got into finding women in the travel industry. So like the CEO, her name's Sian Kim of American Express Global Business Travel, the risk management side, has been one of my mentors. A lot of people in the industry, and I carry that over into my business because I value mentorship so much. In my travel coach network, I mentored those in my programs, as well as I run a mentorship program itself, or I bring in my mentors to come in for the people in my programs, because I think that it is one of the key contributors to helping you scale and grow a business, and also just help you as an individual, a human being overall, mindset, balance, everything. So it's really important. Just don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Or as David always teaches, to give you some cushion in there, if you feel intimidated to ask someone, hey, do you mentor anyone or whatnot, put that leverage in there and say, hey, do you know anyone who would be willing to help me out or be a mentor to help me out? And most likely someone, if they don't have the time or they can't do it themselves, they will recommend or steer you in the right direction. So that gives you some peace of mind of getting a hard no. And then a lot of people fear that, like, what are they going to say to me? What if they shut me down? Well, give you some comfort and say, well, do you know anyone who would be able to help me? That has helped a lot.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, mentorship is so important. I think we could do a whole other session talking about it.
Definitely. I mean, there's plenty of sessions I've seen recently about this as well. There's lots of communities that offer mentorship. Well, WHCT is one of them. There's plenty of others, and it doesn't have to be within the travel hospitality space. And like you said,
Oh, not at all.
even better if it's not, because someone can see you from another perspective. Because within our industry, we often, like you said, well, in the hotel box. We don't leave the box. We need to leave the box. We are a business, we are an industry, and there's a lot more to it. So definitely have a think about it, reach out. If you see someone on LinkedIn, you're like, they're interesting, just send them a message. Ask, don't ask for time, don't ask for something, but ask for a referral. That's an easier way in, like you said. So fantastic.
100%.
Amazing. 100%. We've been running through this time. I can't believe it. We're almost there. Well, just before we kind of wrap up, what would you tell your younger self about your future career endeavors? What words of encouragement or guidance would you share? Megan, do you want to start?
The thing that came to mind was, don't buy all of the equipment at once. You don't know what you need. So, yeah. I mean, I think the mentorship thing is a big tip, but the problem is that with entrepreneurship, there's not usually someone who's doing what you do. So, yeah. So I think it's look to other industries, take lessons from other industries, and I mean, I guess there weren't podcasts at the time that I was doing it that did it, but yeah, So I had to look for other industries, and I wish I would have done that earlier on. And yeah, anyway, I'm glad you guys brought that up, because that was important to me and that helped me. So, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniela, first.
Go.
No, okay. Well, I was gonna say the one thing. Even though I was a people person, and even though I love people and I come from a big family, I never had confidence. So when I did take this journey, when I did start the podcast, when I was becoming a leader, becoming a manager, whatever, I still questioned myself. And if I could go back and tell myself or whisper in my ear and say, hey, idiot, dummy, wake up. You have a great opportunity, and don't doubt yourself, because at the end of the day, you have the skill, you have the ability, you have the tools at your disposal. So be more confident and go tackle it sooner. That's one thing. If I could have done it sooner, I would have.
Well, in my case, I don't regret anything. If I were to go back, I would do exactly the same things, taken exactly the same choices, because it's what brought me here. I'm happy where I am. I love where I am. If anything, just travel more. I haven't traveled as much as I could have done when I was young, but there's plenty time for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think that people always ask me, like, if I went back and would I change anything or done anything differently? And I honestly would say no. And for two reasons. One is because, I mean, we make the decisions that we do for a certain reason. So maybe we didn't know anything else, or maybe we had outside factors influencing us. And we all learn and grow. But for the second reason is because I always something in me always just wanted to trust my gut. Maybe it was, I mean, that really helped me as a traveler around the world, as a solo female, trusting my gut and my instincts. But I trusted my gut from, after graduating from university and not listening to what maybe family expected or society expected to do for a college graduate with a degree is now it's time to find a job, get a good title, and then the next steps in life. And I knew that wasn't for me. And I always just listened to what I wanted. And the same thing I carried on into traveling and trying to figure out what my career path was. I could have easily settled for anything that was in the industry or that others told me it was fun or, lucrative to do. And I still was like, no, it doesn't sit well or suit me. I want to be passionate about what I do and feel fulfilled. So always just trust your gut. And when it comes to entrepreneurship and your business, it's really important to put on those blinders and earmuffs over all the noise out there, whether it stems from your own family and cultural expectations to extending to the online internet and what others share about their opinions to you. None of that matters as long as you believe enough in yourself. And that really is key. If you believe in what your mission is, and you don't have to have 1,000,000% clarity on what your end goal is at all, but if you put one foot in front of the other, seek help, like we're talking about mentorship, and just try again. I promise you'll get to create something one day. It might be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you'll have the clarity that you're looking for. But if you cave into all these outside factors, learn yourself and learn what affects you and what matters more to you, and just keep on going with it all.
I'd like to piggyback on that for a second and say, like, if you don't know what you want to do, don't be hard on yourself, especially if you're a student, because I mean, there's something to be said for life experience, and you shouldn't be ashamed of not having life experience. You're in the exploratory phase. And I'll tell you that when people say to me, I'm just exploring this, can we talk about it? You're actually at a moment where people are like, yeah, I want to tell you about this. Rather, like, because what do you have to, like, you're stroking their ego, right? Like, oh, you know something. And I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you something. So don't be afraid to volunteer into things or take that unpaid internship if you can make that work, because having a broad range of experiences is going to help you round out what you want to do. And so don't be afraid to try things and ask, and
make mistakes.
Yeah, and admitting
Absolutely.
that there's a time to say, I'm the expert at this, and there's a time to say, I'm a newbie. Will you help me? And both are appropriate. So there you go.
For sure. And if you fell into the travel industry and you have a degree, or you're studying a degree and you're not sure, well, take the degree, start to work, and then see how life evolves. I didn't get my real call up until I was 30. So it's never too late. And I know people that didn't get a call until they were 50 or 55 and switched their life completely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like what you mentioned,
just
Megan.
Keep going, and keep exploring.
Yeah, and
life is a journey.
Trying new things, like Megan and Daniela were saying, is really important. And that's something that I was really glad that I did too. Is I worked in the restaurant industry for years, of over a decade of working in the restaurant industry. I worked conventions and events. I lived in Chicago, so I was like intimidated by this massive city when I was I think I moved there when I was 20, and I wanted to be a part of everything, but I knew nothing about any of these industries. So if I got my toes wet in all these different areas and did things that I really enjoyed, everything from marketing online for people to working with nonprofits, and things that fulfilled me in different ways. But it gave me a taste of different industries and different positions that now, with that knowledge, that you're able to kind of formulate, what do I enjoy? What don't I like? What am I good at? What do I want more of? And kind of formulate what suits you best. So just put yourself out there and try different jobs. Don't be afraid if it's not your dream job. If it's something you're interested in, like I liked people, I liked working in restaurants. Did I want to work in it forever? Absolutely not. Did I want to be a manager? Absolutely not. I was happy with my paychecks and I enjoyed the people part of it all. So do things that you enjoy doing, and then you'll and learn from them.
Amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better finish for this amazing episode. Thank you. This is exactly what I always try to preach and share with people who are not sure. And I think there's a lot of people who are not sure, who are lost, who feel like they need to have a clear plan. No, just try, just keep going, experience, and you will find it. You may find it sooner than later. You'll find it when it's right for you. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on this panel, for being part of this episode, for sharing your advice and your stories with our audience and students and graduates everywhere. It's been amazing to have you. Next week, we've got the next panel, which will be all about wine. So perfect. The dry January is over in a couple of days.
Why weren't we invited to that one?
I know.
I don't think we'll be drinking wine, but we'll be talking all about wine and wine careers. So make sure you register as well at the same time, same place. It's 12 p.m. GMT, and here on WHTT's LinkedIn channel live or on YouTube or wherever you are right now. Other than that, please have a wonderful morning, day, evening, whenever you are, and morning for Will. Thank you so much for this fantastic conversation. It's been brilliant.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.